Welcome back to America Trends. We're so glad you're with us tonight. Again, I'm Amy Fuller in for Renee Cohn, who's on a hiatus for a few days. And right now, we'd like to welcome our next guest, Toni Patillo, who is known as the go-to strategist for all kinds of real estate matters. She's based in LA, and she's the principal and broker for Toni Patillo and Associates, a residential and commercial real estate company. And she handles everything standard, traditional, circumstantial real estate matters. And Toni joins me now. She's going to talk with us right now about the ins and outs of the baby boomers generation who might be looking to take the plunge and buy a home at this stage in life. So that's something to think about. What can you tell us about that?
Well, first of all, thank you for it's really an honor to be here. Exciting. I'll tell you what's happening. The boomers are dealing with retirement. They're approaching retirement. Many of them who have been homeowners are faced with having to restructure, maybe downsize. Maybe because of a health condition, they've got to make some changes. They may be in what we call the sandwich generation, which is they're taking care of their own kids and they've got their parents. So I have a client right at this moment we've sold his mom's house. We're now looking for a new home for him so that he can bring his mom into his home and they can care for her there. So there are a lot of different things that are going on with the boomer generation
Right,
today.
you could be downsizing, upsizing to bring in a parent, or even lateral move where you just need the same size but a granny flat situation.
That's right. And there are all kinds of tips that I would say that we would want to look out for when you're dealing with the aging population. You really want to make sure you're in an environment where it's, you know how we would do things for kid friendly?
Right.
We're going to do the same thing for an older adult and make sure that it's safe. It's all about safety and protection.
What are some of the things you look for? I mean, I think of a ramp for someone who might need a wheelchair. What else?
Yeah. Well, there's also there's a thing called universal design. And that's where the contractors are actually structuring things in the home, like the countertops might be a little bit lower, or maybe with someone who's in a wheelchair, they'll need to be able to access cabinets easier. And so there's different types of fixtures and different types of things that they would use.
Bathtubs and everything.
Bathtubs and everything, yeah.
It makes you think about if you're getting ready to sell your home,
right,
what might be doable for that as well. If you have a particular size home and you know that an older couple with no kids might be coming into it, what kinds of things would you tell someone who's going to sell their home?
Well, the main thing with selling the home is all about really pricing. There are certain things that I would ask that they do from an aesthetic perspective, like depersonalize it.
I love this because it brings up staging and decluttering. Things that we think make a home might not be that attractive to other people who are trying to envision their items.
Absolutely. So I would highly encourage them to declutter, depersonalize, and make as much open space as possible. So they might have some really heavy furniture that's kind of dated and older. I would even encourage them to do some staging. So if that meant that we have to move their furniture out, we get a stager to come in and we move something in that gives it more of an open feel.
So I know staging is a big business. You have people you already work with. Because, a couple decades ago, the minimalist look came in, but for certain generations, I know I'm from the Midwest and I have things that I've collected for a long time, and we may not be able to see what looks not necessarily right. So do you recommend, sometimes it's really worth hiring that stager to get a second set of eyes?
Absolutely. I always work with stagers. And even if the home is, obviously there's times when we're selling vacant homes, and then we would come in and do the staging. But if you're working with a homeowner who has accumulated a lot of things, we will bring in that stager so that we can, that we can actually give them different pointers of where maybe it's just about positioning. Right?
For sure, for sure. In the picture we just saw, there's a world of difference between seeing an empty blank room where you're just saying, there's walls, there's a floor.
Absolutely.
And when you set up the sofa and everything, and what could be.
Yep, absolutely.
People probably look and say, can I just take the furniture with it when you do some really good staging?
Well, we've had that. We've had people that come in and say, does the furniture come with, or can we fold that into the deal?
And you provide that too. That's nice. So let's talk about money. If you're whatever age you are, I know there are certain parameters. There's like a math and a science to it. How much you should spend on your house compared to what your income is.
Yeah.
And you're an expert on all this.
Well, you know, there is a debt to income ratio that all lenders are going to look for. They don't want you to overextend yourself with regard to what you're bringing in versus what you're paying out. They really like to see you at like a 45% debt to income ratio. So they really don't want you spending more than 45%.
And I bet everyone's more careful now because of the big bubble burst and from about 10 years ago.
Yeah, that was a huge, we had a pretty bad hit with that, the economic downsizing and the values drop. But interestingly enough, it just depends. I've seen people who are living way beyond their means today, and they're not thinking, that long term of as far as what they can, what they need to do in order to be able to live as long as their money lives. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who are outliving their money, right. And so they're having to figure out different things to do. Fortunately, there are certain products, loan products, that are specifically for the older adult that they can tap into so that they can have a better option of retirement.
Well, you're so well versed. You talk about liquidity and investments, how to get a hold of your money. What do you suggest? Do we grab some of that money for the house, or is it just based on the income that we have coming in otherwise?
Speaking of liquidity, that's really key, that you remain as liquid as you can as you get older, because you never know when you're going to have to tap into those funds. And the one thing that's very obvious when you're working with investment funds is that there's a hit that you're going to take from pulling that money out. So you really want to manage, and obviously I'm not a financial, I can't say that I'm an expert in that arena. However, we work a lot with people who are dealing with that. So I would refer them to a financial planner, someone an investment specialist that can really help them lay out a plan long term as far as what they're really going to need to fund their retirement.
All right, there's inflation and risk, and just buying a house in itself, it's like you need a PhD. You do it all the time. I've bought one house in my life, and the paperwork and everything you have to think about. What's the first? I know. Well, taxes. You have to think about that when you think about the price.
You've got to think about your taxes. You've got to think about your risk factors, okay? And again, it really depends. It's very individualized. It's very specific to each individual and what they're dealing with. So, and as of the beginning of the year, we have new tax bills. So there's not going to be as many deductions as we've had before. I believe that the property tax deduction is capped at $10,000. Now, it's all state specific. So every state is going to have their own, particular. I think that the local and state might be specific to that area, but the government on the mortgage deduction, it's up to $750,000 is what you can use as a tax deduction.
Well, we're going to hold you over. I want to talk more about if I'm going to renovate one part of my home. I want to know what you would suggest there.
Okay.
Also, you started out in entertainment.
Yes.
Motown.
Yes.
Hashtag Motown. I want to hear about that and how you made your way as a
Absolutely.
woman in business. So
Thank
we're
you.
going to have you back after this, and we hope you stay with America Trends. We'll be right back.
Pop, pop, it's showtime. 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 Guess who's back again? Oh, they don't know. Oh, they don't know. I bet they know as soon as my wheels, but they gonna show.
Welcome back to America Trends. I'm here with Toni Patillo, who's talking to us about buying a home, selling a home, women in business, all kinds of good stuff. We appreciate your being here.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor and a privilege. So I appreciate it.
We appreciate your tips. My goodness, there's a lot to think about because you think baby boomers, they already have a home. What are they looking for a home for? But we learned a lot about that in the last segment.
Yeah.
And also, like if you're selling a house and going to your next one, you hear kitchens, is that the big thing to remodel first? Or?
Let me tell you something. I really have to say that it's kitchens, bathrooms, and opening up space. That is huge today. If you can knock out a wall and open up space and give it more breathing room, if you would, that's a real added value, okay? So I would say kitchens, and bathrooms, yes, countertops, all those things, recessed lighting. There's different things you can do, but I would say if you have the ability to open it up and make it more, people want to be able to commingle with the family who's in the kitchen. They want to be able to chat with their friends and their guests, right?
Yeah.
So I really would encourage people to look at how can you open the space up. Yeah.
How much should we spend? Is there a certain percentage of what we're asking for the house? How much should we spend in that renovation? We don't want to overspend.
No, you don't want to overspend, but you know what? I kind of use a rule of thumb. For every nickel you spend, you're going to get a quarter back.
Nice.
So I've had other people who, really tightwad and they don't want to spend the money and they're afraid that they're not going to get the return. But the truth is, the more you enhance your property, the more you're going to be able to ask for it. Okay.
Nice. So if you're touring a home, what do you look for if you're the one buying? Like, where do you start?
Ooh, that's a big one. You know what? I start with the title report. I mean, I know people.
Title report.
Oh yeah. I mean, first people think, okay, let me get in the house, let me look at it and feel it and touch it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about title reports and paperwork.
I want to tell you that one of the first most important things to do is really to look at the title report, because you want to know what's lurking on that title report. Are there any liens? Are there any judgments? Are there any issues with easements? Or, we want to look for all those things. Now, that's not necessarily, maybe it's not the first thing you do, but that's certainly something you want to do while you're in your due diligence period. And I personally like to do it first. I just like to know what I'm dealing with, right?
How do we find the title report?
You get it from your local title companies. And if you're working with a real estate professional, they can access that for you and get it for you.
You help with all that.
Absolutely.
So you've been doing this how long? And just tell us a little bit more about your business, what else you provide, your one-stop shop.
Yes, I am. I have been in real estate for 18 years now. And I started out, doing residential sales primarily. And I got my broker's license early on. But, when I came out of the entertainment business, I really did not, it was not my thing where I said I wanted to be a realtor. It was actually my own broker that talked me into getting into this business. And I did real well when I got in the beginning, but it wasn't until the market crashed, and then I realized that these people needed support, they needed guidance, they needed direction, and all of us, when we had the economic crash and the values came down, all of us were struggling and having to figure out what to do and how to do it. And I decided that I was going to suit up and master the market of the moment. So that's what I did. And then I started working with distressed properties. And then I discovered that I was really excited, because when you're able to help someone get through a crisis, it's just rewarding. And you see them come through it, and then you're being of service, and you're really helping people get through certain things. So that's my passion, is really helping people. So today, I work with a lot of older adults and a lot of boomers and 50-plus market, because there's 10,000 people a day who are retiring, who are going through this retirement phase. So
those baby boomers. Those
baby boomers, and there is a wealth of information that they need, and that they need support on.
Well, it sounds like you're a company with heart. It must be so nice to have someone to hold your hand rather than a corporate building, paperwork. Yeah. It all sounds so difficult.
Yeah.
So you truly have embodied that. That's really very cool.
I'm with the Keller Williams in Santa Monica. The thing I love about Keller Williams is we're all about culture and education.
And so going back, you started in entertainment.
Yes.
Let's go back to that, because you worked with some real legends here.
Yeah. I started out with Dick Clark. That was my first coming out of college time, and I started with Dick Clark. He was amazing, but 5 years later I went over to Motown.
Oh, come on.
I had the privilege and the honor to work in that environment. I worked with Suzanne DePass specifically. She was awesome. And I had, it was really a unique environment, because I was able to kind of look where the holes were and kind of jump in and create my own world, if you would, or create my own position.
So what did you do?
I was the VP of Finance originally, and then I became the Senior VP of Operations, Human Resources, Business Affairs, pretty much the centerpiece of the company. And it was awesome. Yep, that's it. Suzanne, Barry, Smokey. We had a lot of fun, and it was really, I learned a lot working in that environment.
Boy.
So, yeah.
That's something you can never, they can never take that away from you. That is no one.
No,
that is
but it
just
was great.
Really something.
It was awesome.
So when did you decide, hey, I'm going to go to California? Well, were you already in California?
I was already in California.
Okay.
I did not work in Detroit. I worked specifically here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So,
and then you switched over. Do you miss it?
You know, I don't miss it, but because you know what? It's very interesting you asked that question. You know, I went from intellectual properties to real properties. So it's really
that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, it's very similar. Same characters, if you would. We're just dealing with different product. And you're helping people to realize their dreams. Same thing we did in entertainment. You know, you're helping people to realize their dreams.
I love
so
that.
I really, I'm very grateful. Very grateful. I had the opportunity to be in that space and have that be a part of the journey, right?
Well, Toni, I think thank you so much for what you give to anyone buying a home, and especially baby boomers or any one of us who just feels a little out of our range doing that. Sure. Can you tell us again your website and how we can see what all you have to offer?
Absolutely. My website is very easy. It's my name, ToniPatillo.com, and that's TONI, P as in Peter, A, T as in Tom, ILLO.com. ToniPatillo.com. That's a great place to start.
Thank you so much, and we'll be seeing you on your website.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We're back on America Trends right after this. And Toni Patillo, who is the founder and broker of record for her company, Toni Patillo and Associates. And she does a great job with helping people in the liquidation of properties, for people who are selling due to particular circumstances, people who might be buying, baby boomers, gives them advice on what to look for, how to access their investments, how much to spend on a house. So we thank Toni for coming into our studio today for that.